This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Mixed reviews. Parents weigh in on the first year of the Nova Scotia school lunch program.
Accessibility concerns. Advocates speak out about new e-bikes and scooters in Halifax.
And lending an ear. We catch up with a retired Nova Scotia social worker on a cross-Canada listening tour.
Periods of rain, even the risk for a thunderstorm overnight, but we're clearing as we work our way into Wednesday. Your full forecast is coming up.
The first year of the Nova Scotia school lunch program is about to wrap up. For the first time, beginning last fall, all elementary school children in the province had access to a universal midday meal.
Backed by provincial funding, families could get the food on a pay-what-you-can basis. The program is set to continue and expand next year, but some parents were disappointed by the menu and they're hoping for changes. Shayna Luck has the story.
Time for an after-school snack. 7-year-old Henry Armstrong brings a lunchbox like this to school each day, but sometimes he orders from the school lunch program.
I kind of liked it, but not really that much.
What did you like about it?
I liked their like the red sauce pasta that they had, and in like some of the sides they had, because they were all like vegetables and fruit.
He wasn't a fan of the fish cakes, tacos, or pizza, and he said sometimes the food arrived cold. His mother was excited when the program was announced. At first, she paid full price, hoping to offset the cost for other kids.
Then when I saw the response from Henry and from others, and that it wasn't really working for us, I reduced it to the $4 amount.
The program is about getting food to all children, regardless of ability to pay. That said, payments declined over time. At the start, about a third of the meals were at least partially paid. By late April, that went down to less than 1 in 8 of them. In a statement, the province acknowledged this, but said program participation has remained consistent, and what matters most is that no student is sitting in class hungry. It also said menu tweaks and more quality control will be coming for next year. This charity advocates for good food for young people. They've been hearing from staff who used to see kids going without, but now staff have a way to change that. They say it will take time to get this right.
We need a couple of years under our belt to really consider all of the impacts of this program, where the program can really grow, and just continue to get that feedback and incorporate it into the program over time.
The Armstrong family firmly believes the program needs to stay.
This, of course, is the first year it's in play, and there's always room for change and improvement. We definitely won't give up.
The program will expand to junior high and middle schools this fall. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Dartmouth.
The Crown has closed its case in the Adam Drake second-degree murder trial. Drake is accused of killing Pat Stay in September of 2022 when he was stabbed in a downtown Halifax bar. Stay managed to stumble outside before collapsing and dying. The prosecution wrapped up their case this morning. The defense said it will not call any evidence. Closing arguments will begin on Thursday. Drake has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder.
Halifax Regional Council is debating a motion to pause bike lane development in the city. People rallied outside City Hall Tuesday morning, calling on councillors to reject the motion. It was put forward by Mayor Andy Fillmore. He says he's concerned about rising costs and reducing traffic congestion should be the city's priority right now. But cyclists at this morning's rally disagree.
We've waited a long time for any type of infrastructure, and to pause it because of cost overruns when all the other cost overrun are happening in all of our lives, in all areas of our lives, makes no sense.
Some councillors have already signaled they will not support the motion.
Halifax's new electric scooters and bicycles are raising concerns from advocates about accessibility. The devices are part of the municipality's micro-mobility pilot program, which launched in May, and they're being found parked in places they're not supposed to be. Andrew Lamb reports.
There are nearly 600 of these shared e-scooters and e-bikes now dotted around urban Halifax and Dartmouth. The municipality launched a 2-year pilot program in May aimed at improving urban transportation options, but advocates say the devices are causing accessibility issues.
Just in the last week, I've come across a few parked in the middle of the sidewalk, one downtown Halifax, not far from the ferry terminal.
Niekamp lives with sight loss and says the scooters can create an unpredictable barrier for people like her. The devices are supposed to be parked in designated areas, but when they're left on the sidewalk, she says, they can pose an injury risk.
When we encounter it, it requires additional energy and focus to figure out what's in our way and how to navigate around it safely.
The company delivering the program says it's hiring more people to move the scooters and bikes that aren't where they're supposed to be, and that there's technology to prevent them from being parked outside designated areas.
It's using Google AI to validate where that device is parked and ensuring that it's basically to the centimeter level, actually, in the furniture zone or off to the side of the sidewalk.
There are more than 100 of the designated parking locations around the urban core. On Monday, CBC News observed this one on Brunswick Street, taking up about half the sidewalk. After asking Spademan about it, Bird Canada moved the location the same day. HRM confirmed it did not meet accessibility criteria. Niekamp says having a raised lip around parking areas could help with navigation for people with sight loss who use a white cane.
With nothing to sort of indicate that I shouldn't move forward, I've now hit the e-scooter and I've got to figure out, okay, what am I encountering and how do I get around it?
In a statement, the HRM says starting this week, additional parking locations will be located on street to help keep sidewalks clear. Andrew Lamb, CBC News, Halifax.
Time to check in on the weather now. Here's Ryan Snoddon.
And some wet weather is being rolling in.
That's right. Increasing clouds today and that wet weather marching from southwest to northeast throughout the day. We're all into the mix for tonight. Let's have a look at the high temperatures. This really tells the story of the day we had today. Note low double digits along that Atlantic coastline down into the south and west. Blake, if you could drop that yellow bar there just to get into the Shelburne. There we are down towards back row at 12. And as we work our way high teens, even some low 20s across northern parts of the province. So yeah, a real difference in terms of where we were. Tomorrow will be more so on a level playing field. As you can see, temperatures are going to be into the low 20s. We'll see temperatures into the teens for the Tri-County area in those onshore winds. We will see the chance for showers kind of lingering into the early morning for tomorrow, but the bulk of the wet weather will be overnight. So this is Wednesday morning. Cape Breton has the best chance of hanging into those showers, say till mid-morning, but even that looks like it's going to be on the tail end of things. And then we'll clear the skies from west to east pretty quickly throughout the morning. We're into that sunshine into the afternoon. Wednesday's looking pretty nice for sure into the afternoon, we should say. We'll talk about your 7-day forecast coming up in a few minutes.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
The Department of Community Services says it continues to move people with disabilities out of institutionalized care and into the community. The Minister of Opportunities and Social Development gave an update today. It all follows the landmark Board of Inquiry decision that found the province discriminated against people with disabilities by not providing proper housing. Preston Mulligan reports.
The Minister of Social Development says his department is making progress in moving adults with disabilities out of institutionalized care and into the community, smaller homes where they can live like everyone else. There are still more than 680 people living in conditions deemed unacceptable by the courts, but since 2022, 309 have been moved out. Too slow, though, says this member of the province's Disability Rights Coalition.
Although we're understanding things need to move faster and people have to get a little more creative, and we're confident that they're beginning to do that.
The challenge, the province says, is operating the old system and designing a new one at the same time. In other words, caring for those who still live in institutionalized care and providing that same service to people who've moved out and now live all over the province.
We just have to make sure we can deliver that in community like we could when they were institutions.
That means finding housing and, more importantly, hiring and training disability support workers. The minister says it takes time.
I agree with them. I want to move as quickly as possible, but I also want to temper that by saying, moving too fast creates challenges and difficulties and unavoided consequences.
One option the province is looking at is finding homeowners who'd be willing to share their space with a person with disabilities. The minister says no one will be living in institutionalized care within 3 years. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Halifax.
The Nova Scotia government will soon begin accepting applications for a new gender-based violence engagement table. The table will have up to 25 members. The group will include representatives for frontline service providers, survivors, family members, and academic experts.
These are folks who have incredibly valuable experience and are doing incredibly important work. And this engagement table is designed to knit their knowledge and their experience and their insights together with the work that is, in some cases, already underway in government.
The goal is for the first meeting to be sometime this fall.
A Nova Scotian vacation destination is back in business. The Pictou Lodge Beach Resort was severely damaged by post-tropical storm Fiona in September of 2022, with roofs blowing off cabins and other damages. The lodge was purchased by two brothers. They say the resort will be operating on a smaller scale for now. The main lodge and the outdoor pool have been redone, and some former staff have been hired back. The lodge will celebrate its 100th anniversary next year.
A retired Nova Scotia social worker is taking a journey across Canada. He's not on vacation, though. He's doing it to listen. He's inviting people to pull up a chair and chat with him about anything on their mind. He recently made a stop in Charlottetown.
I'm a retired social worker. I have 40 years experience and 70 years of living, including, joy, sorrow, tragedy. So I thought I would take those skills and that experience and create a space for people to sit in. So people invite me to the area. There was a social worker, Mark Nickel, who invited me to Prince Edward Island.
Good morning. I'm great.
And so I go from one invitation to the other. I come and sit wherever I think people will be, and I center myself. I open up a big space for people mentally and emotionally, and then I just wait.
I came downtown to get a coffee prior to kind of starting my day off, and I was just having a walk through, and I was caught by Paul's sign, and I was specifically caught by the part of the sign that says, "I will listen." And I kind of thought, I have to know more about what that is. Maybe I was feeling today like I needed someone to listen to me, I'm not sure. But I sat down and then I got to know who Paul was, and he got to know who I was, and probably a connection was made. We talked a lot about, I think, social work. We made an instant connection because we're both social workers, and we talked about older adults and seniors also being people who are a pocket that aren't always afforded that connection. And so how awesome it is that Paul's kind of just out here doing this today on his own accord, and I think it's commendable, and I think we probably need more of this.
In a way, I'm the stranger on the airplane who you can tell anything to because you're never going to see them again. I've been talking for 70 years. Frankly, I'm kind of tired of listening to myself. So in some ways, I sit representing an older group of people that have something to offer, and to offer it in a way that might be refreshing.
Well, penalty chaos, swinging fists, and a big loss for the Edmonton Oilers in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
It was a big win for the Florida Panthers and hometown hockey superstar Brad Marchand. The Hammonds Plains native opened the scoring for the Panthers. Marchand also had an assist in the game, leading his team to a 6-1 win. He now has 20 points in this postseason.
That ties him for 7th in the playoff scoring race. The Panthers take a 2-1 series lead, putting HRM 2 games away from a Stanley Cup parade. Game 4 goes Thursday night in Florida.
The
whole family.
Gaggle of geese. Ryan will be up next with the full weather forecast. We will see you in just a few minutes.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourisme Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismegaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
All right, the grass is loving the moisture for sure, but if we get a little sun and some more heat, we'll all love it all the more.
Well, the sun and warmer temperatures tomorrow, you were saying.
Yeah, definitely you'll hear the grass growing again tomorrow and Thursday, as it's definitely going to be warming up and turning into really, really nice Wednesday afternoon especially. But yeah, today has been a kind of a day divided, as I mentioned off the top. The northern part of the province saw quite a bit of sunshine. The Atlantic coastline saw zero sun. This has been the case along the Atlantic coastline.
Yeah, not too sunny there.
That's great for sure.
Yeah. So this is, of course, quarter deck down in Somerville, and you can see the fog. Yeah, certainly thick there, and that fog is going to be rolling in across the province for tonight. And so just a heads up on that. We'll see some fog patches overnight into the early morning hours of tomorrow as well. And you can see that temps have cooled off across the valley and the northern parts of the province as well. Still hanging on to some 20-degree temps in Shetticamp today, one of our warmer spots. But yeah, just 10 degrees in Sydney and Port Hawkesbury as the southeast flow is now pushing that cloud and moisture in. Let's have a look at the gusts. Yeah, we are gusting upwards of 40 kilometers per hour in a few spots. Couple of spotty showers ahead of what is the main line, which is still approaching from the southwest. And there it is, rolling into the Gulf of Maine as we speak. As this pushes over tonight, we're generally looking at about 5 to 15 millimeters, but given the risk of some downpours and rumbles of thunder, we definitely could pick up some local amounts that are heavier than that, especially if a thunderstorm rolls over your backyard. So this front will push through, and then we're looking at this area of high pressure settling in behind, and that will calm things down and clear things out. Now, as we look at the forecast temperatures for tonight, we're going to be in that 12 to 15 degree range for the most part. We will be looking at a couple spots that dip maybe closer to 9 or 10, but overall it's going to be very mild tonight. And you can see the setup here as the winds go from southeast to then southwest to southwest for Wednesday. Now, by the time we get to tomorrow morning, it is Cape Breton that's looking at the best chance of some lingering rumbles of thunder into the wee morning hours of Wednesday. Period of rain, maybe a downpour lingering. Isolated shower chances, Amherst to Truro to Halifax. This is, I think, going to be the best chance of a few showers hanging on into the morning hours. Will be east of that line. West of that line, I think, yeah, the clouds will be a bit stubborn early on, but it's a pretty quick clear out. By mid to late morning, the mainland is cleared. Cape Breton, you folks will follow it up quickly, and we're looking at a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. And as we said, with those temperatures for tomorrow and those west to southwest winds, they are going to be warm. Onshore wind, though, for Inverness County, and so places like Shetticamp will be a bit cooler, but yeah, should be nice into the low 20s in through around the Bredora Lakes area. Antigonish back through Sherbrooke should be in the mid-20s, looking at temperatures 23, 24 degrees in through central parts of the province, but a bit cooler again in those onshore winds. Places like Parsboro, even Truro with a bit of a west wind right in off Cobequid Bay, and Halifax. An onshore wind will keep temperatures cooler, closer to the coastline into the teens, and you can see the Tri-County area feeling that onshore wind there tomorrow as well. Now, quick moving system here on Thursday will be, one, increasing the winds pretty gusty along this front, and it will fire up at least a couple of isolated showers into Thursday afternoon. The greatest risk is going to be Cape Breton and back towards Cobequid Bay, but also down towards the Halifax area. We can't rule it out. I think far enough, the western parts of the province will be far enough away from that that we won't be seeing it. Now, as we look into the Thursday afternoon time period, some gusts in the 40, 50, maybe even some isolated gusts to 60 kilometers per hour. So Thursday is going to be breezy, so a heads up on that. That front moves away, and we're looking at some quieter weather moving back in for Friday. Now, the weekend. A system that was looking set to track to the south now looks like it's going to be close enough that we do get into some showers on Saturday. Time will tell. We'll iron that out over the next couple of days. But again, that would make 13 for 13 weekends in the spring where we see some form of precipitation. So I guess that'd be on par for the last weekend of spring. Keep
ironing.
Too. Yeah.
Get the wrinkles out.
Yeah, no kidding. Not a great streak.
It's hanging on for summer weekends.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Coming up, back in business, we'll hear more from the new owners who are restoring the Pictou Lodge.
Years after it was severely damaged by post-tropical storm Fiona, the Pictou Lodge Beach Resort is getting ready to be back open. And for more on this, we're joined by co-owner Brad Hartland. So first of all, can you talk a bit about what the lodge looked like when you and your brother Mark took over?
Yeah, Fiona definitely did have its impact on the lodge. There was lots of buildings that were severely damaged. Cedar Court roofs were blown completely off. I think I seen some of those pictures that you did a broadcast on CBC that showed some of those images. It was pretty bad. The main lodge suffered damage. The entire property, the entire county of Pictou suffered, not just obviously the lodge, but yeah, it was extensive damages. And through the previous owners, they started to do some mediation to get things fixed. And then when we came in this year, we decided, when we decided to close this deal, we moved forward with all the recommendations and everything that needed to be fixed to bring it up to snuff so we can open June 23rd officially.
Well, why did you decide this was a project you wanted to take on?
Timing necessarily wasn't the greatest for me with current job, relocating to Toronto and being in Toronto and Halifax starting in September. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. And my brother put together a business plan, and we talked about it, and we decided to go full in on it. And this is a lifelong project that hopefully this can stay in our family for the foreseeable future. That's definitely our plan. This isn't a short-term commitment. We're in it for the long haul, and we're very excited to do it, that's for sure.
Well, what was in this business plan to get it up and going again?
The number one thing was we had to meet with Gary Chambers, who has been with the Lodge in different roles over the last 40 years. I sat down with Gary, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without his commitment and his team that he has in place. So Gary was very excited. I've known Gary for the last 10 years. He was very excited to get this project rolling. And once we had his commitment to it, and he walked us through what we could and couldn't do and what we should do, and we kind of put our team together, and we never looked back from that point.
Now, you have fewer rooms than originally, correct?
Yes, yeah, we do. We have 40 rooms right now. I think it was 82 rooms total when the Lodge was operating at full capacity. We have plans, like a long-term vision, to add rooms as we go, but do it as we learn. This is all new to us. We want to make sure we do things right, so it's long-term sustainability. It's exciting, and we don't want to get too overexcited by just trying to do everything at once. So very taking our time to make sure that we have our long-term plan is in place, but let's just do it in slow term for now.
Well, in your view, what makes this place so special?
Honestly, being on the Northumberland, it's such a beautiful property. The other thing is the history of the Lodge. Next year will be the 100th anniversary, and to be able to be a part of that and to be able to keep things going in Pictou, it's a very special opportunity for us, and we're not going to take it for granted. If you ever stayed at the property, you get to see, there's not very often, we have a full pond that's attached to the property. Then you have the ocean. We have trails around. We're opening up the tap house this season with the restaurant coming in 2026. It's just a beautiful property, and we love Pictou.
Well, what's the reaction from people in the community to the reopening?
All positive. We haven't incurred anything negative at this point. We're trying to keep everything with the nostalgia of the Lodge. We really want to bring that back, maybe even a little bit more than some of the previous owners in the past have done. There's been a lot of history and a lot of different things have happened at the Lodge over the course of 99 years, as you can imagine. Being a sports person myself, the number one thing is Babe Ruth stayed at the Lodge. I think that's just incredible. We're going to do an area kind of dedicated to that and bring back some of that history. A good friend of mine, Kenny Reed, a sports personality, he's from Pictou, and he's got some ideas. So we've been talking back and forth about some ideas what we can do to the Lodge property, that's for sure.
You're having some fun with it.
Yeah. You know what? It's been great. I mean, it's been a lot of work. Fortunately for myself, both my brother and I have been busy with other projects and my full-time job. We wouldn't have been able to do it without the team that we have in place up there. And like I said, Gary has he's been there over 40 years. And with his leadership, it's enabled us just to, we talk every day, and we're just moving through all the moving pieces and what we wanted to do. So we have some projects that are complete now, the expansion of the swimming pool area, which was very exciting for us. That was something we wanted to do. Cleaning up the entire property, that's going to be a work in progress still. But I think when people come in and seeing the view now that some of the buildings that are gone, it is unfortunate. Some of the older buildings that completely were removed from the property. But when you drive into the property now, you're really going to look out on the Northumberland. It's going to be quite the beautiful scene, that's for sure.
And what about bookings? How is that looking for the season?
Yeah, so I think right now, we are at about 60%, 60 to 65% occupancy for the season, which we're ecstatic about. Again, going into this, not really knowing how it was going to go. Like, we were very optimistic. But seeing this now and getting the support that we are getting, it's very good. Like, I think every weekend is almost booked up now, right through the season. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, congratulations, and thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
I really appreciate you doing this for me, Amy. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Coming up, anti-ICE protests. California officials slam the Trump administration for inciting chaos in the city.
And unsung heroes. Meet some of the men and women on the front lines battling wildfires in Western Canada. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump is defending his decision to send the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles, where people are protesting federal immigration raids.
Trump says the city would be, quote, burning to the ground if he hadn't made that move. But state and city officials say the deployment is unjustified. Sasha Petrusik has more.
California's governor has filed an emergency motion asking a federal judge to block National Guard members and Marines from getting involved in immigration raids. President Donald Trump ordered 4,700 of the troops to move into California to protect ICE agents going after what he calls illegal immigrants. About half of these troops are supposed to take positions around 2 federal buildings in downtown Los Angeles. All of this against the wishes of Governor Gavin Newsom.
This theatrical display of toughness by a president of the United States who's unhinged and has now crossed a red line in this country.
The streets of LA have been relatively quiet for the past couple of days after a weekend of sporadic rioting. There have been protests against the immigration raids and some confrontations between demonstrators and police. But the mayor says it's nothing officers can't handle by themselves. In fact, Trump took credit for that calm today and at the same time painted a picture of chaos that might justify further federal intervention.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible.
But while Trump is pushing the boundaries of presidential and federal powers, some serious issues are being raised by Congress. What powers will those troops have? Normally, U.S. law doesn't allow them to get involved in civilian policing. And where will the money come from? $134 million worth. All of that was part of a heated exchange at a congressional committee today.
The chaos is the bait, and the switch is a constitutional crisis and power grab. Trump created this political distraction to divide us and keep our focus away from his policies.
You asked about the situation in Los Angeles, and we believe ICE agents should be allowed to be safe in doing their operations, and we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them in the execution of their duties.
For Trump, the heavy emphasis on the military power he commands continues with a speech to troops at Fort Bragg in North Carolina this afternoon and a massive military parade that's set to shut down a large part of Washington, D.C. this weekend. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Washington.
The Chief Justice of Canada's Supreme Court was asked about the Trump administration and whether its relationship with that country's justice system is bleeding into Canada. Richard Wagner did not mention Trump or the U.S. in his response, but said this.
When you see governments attacking the media, attacking the judges, attacking the lawyers, and universities, of course, that means that there's a good chance that you're in front of a dictatorship.
Chief Justice Wagner said Canadians must be prudent and preserve their institutions. He made the comment during his annual news conference. Canada is imposing new sanctions on two members of Israel's coalition government. The Canadian foreign minister says the two are promoting what she calls, quote, extremist settler violence. The CBC's Evan Dyer has more on that story.
When we say something, we mean it, and that is why we're acting today.
It's been nearly 3 weeks since Britain, Canada and France warned Israel that their patience had come to an end over the starving of civilians in Gaza and settlement expansion and settler violence in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Since then, Israel announced 22 new settlements, the biggest expansion in many years.
As the Prime Minister said on May 19th in the joint statement, if the ongoing expansion of settlements in the West Bank did not stop, concrete actions would be taken.
And so Canada has, for the first time, imposed travel and financial sanctions on two Israeli cabinet ministers, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, as have Britain, Australia, New Zealand and Norway. Both men are themselves West Bank settlers. Both also have long histories of radicalism. Ben-Gvir has been convicted of inciting racism and providing support to a terrorist organization. Smotrich was once held by Israeli security police on suspicion of plotting settler terror attacks.
Today, we are making a decision also to stand against those who encourage abuses of human rights, also to stand against those who encourage violence against Palestinian people.
Lamy said there have been nearly 2,000 settler attacks on Palestinians in the past year.
It is outrageous that elected representatives and members of the government are subjected to this kind of measures.
While the Israeli government condemned the move, Palestinian Canadians say it doesn't go far enough.
You have to understand that these two individuals don't exist in a vacuum. They are part of an Israeli government that is deeply racist.
Although it's the first time Canada has sanctioned Israeli government ministers, the sanctions are individual. They don't apply to the whole government or country. Palestinians say they'd like to see Canada go further and sanction the whole state of Israel, as a previous Canadian government once did apartheid South Africa. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
A bombshell today from Canada's Auditor General. Karen Hogan says the cost of the incoming fleet of stealth fighters has exploded by nearly 50%. Her report comes a day after the new Liberal government promised to expand military spending. Rafi Boudjikanian has the details.
Just as Ottawa insists it is time to shore up this country's ability for self-defense, a scathing report about what it has been unable to guard against.
We found that estimated costs of the Future Fighter Capability Project have significantly increased.
The government announced a deal to purchase 88 F-35 fighter jets nearly 3 years ago, eyeing a little more than a decade for full delivery and operation. They were supposed to cost $19 billion. The Auditor General thinks that might increase to $27.7 billion, blaming in part rising inflation and a heightened global demand for munitions, but also saying the Defense Department used outdated costing estimates.
There was more recent information available about the costs of the actual fighter jets that could have been used and factored into that. And the slowness of putting plans into action have resulted in the need for interim measures.
For one, Canada's 2 aging fighter bases in Bagotville, Quebec and Cold Lake, Alberta both need to be renovated so they can house the new planes at all. The F-35s also require training engineering staff and specially pilots.
Are you concerned that the F-35s are overpriced and are not being delivered on time?
It's raised questions on whether the soaring costs mean these planes will even all be fit to fly by 2033.
Not only was Canada deeply affected by the pandemic and the United States, but every participating NATO partner has had to contend with the forces that the pandemic played on the entire acquisition and development.
But one industry observer says problems with the jets far predate COVID, going back to designers' plans at Lockheed Martin.
They tried to pack in too many different capabilities, too many new technologies, many of which were not fully developed before their design was incorporated into the overall program.
Still waiting in the wings, an entirely different review of the F-35 program commissioned by the Defense Department. The government saying it's not ruling out leaving this contract, but it's committed to receive the first of its planes next year. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
While thousands of people flee the fires in Western Canada, hundreds of others go towards them. They are the unsung heroes, firefighters helping protect communities and critical infrastructure. The CBC's Caroline Bargou brings us some of their stories.
For days, Clifford Nabes and 7 of his colleagues at the Kuwaitan Railway Company have been heading into the heat of the wildfires burning around Sheridan and Pictou. Their job is to refuel the water pumps that are keeping flames from reaching 16 train bridges, essential for transporting goods and people to those remote communities.
Majority of the time, you got to get through it. You can feel the heat right through the side of the windows. There's a few times we've drove through fire where it's actually raining fire on the window.
Nabes estimates he's seen between 50 to 60 miles of forest that's been destroyed around Pictou and Sheridan.
This is what it looks like when wildfires burn through wooded areas. As you can see, it is still smoldering. Emergency responders come in with heavy machinery, knock down some of these trees, and create what's called a fire break to prevent the flames from spreading. Then firefighters on the ground and helicopters in the air come in with water to try to put out the flames.
After spending 22 years in the United States Marines, Rob Brunken decided to get his pilot's license. Now he flies for Columbia Helicopters in Aurora, Oregon. When the American company heard Manitoba needed air support to fight growing wildfires, they assembled a crew, loaded up 2 choppers, and came to help.
We kind of showed up, kicked all our gear out, and have just been trying to help wherever we can.
Brunken says you can't put out wildfires with a helicopter and a water bucket, but they provide critical air support for firefighters on the ground.
There's usually what's called an air attack. It's an aircraft that circles overhead that can see the whole fire, and they can see us, they can see all the air assets and the ground assets. So really they're coordinating kind of, the coach of the whole thing. They're coordinating between the ground crews and the helicopter crews or even the aircraft, how to get the fire to burn itself out. That's really what we're trying to do.
Gary Lejam and his team use bulldozers to break up the tree line to prevent fires from spreading. He says most of the time it works.
You'll make just like a road allowance, and then when the fire gets there, it's got to kind of stop. It's got no fuel. The only time the fire goes over that is if there's big, heavy winds, and sometimes it'll fly over top.
These are just 3 of the emergency responders on the front lines of the Manitoba wildfire fight, doing the best they can to save people and property.
Wind keeps gusting.
Now they just need the weather to cooperate. Caroline Bargood, CBC News, The Pas.
Canadian health professionals are now spreading the word about the risk measles poses during pregnancy. This follows the death of a newborn that had contracted the virus in the womb of its unvaccinated mother. Allison Northcott reports.
Julia O'Reilly is due to give birth to her first child next month. She's vaccinated against measles, which can help protect her and her baby. But she still worries as cases keep climbing in Ontario.
We do what we can, but hope that others also do what they can as well.
In the Canadian Medical Association Journal, experts warn pregnant people with measles are at a higher risk of pneumonia, hepatitis, and at a 10-fold higher risk of death than those who are not pregnant.
We would want to know that every woman who's planning to get pregnant is vaccinated, because measles in a pregnancy can have complications, including death.
According to Public Health Ontario, during this outbreak, 39 people have been infected with measles, about 2% of the province's cases, and 6 infants have been born already infected. The virus can lead to serious outcomes.
The other things that we think about are the risk of spontaneous abortion, that means miscarriage. And then, of course, there can be an increased risk of fetal demise as well, which means babies passing away or stillbirth.
Last week, Canada recorded its first death linked to the outbreak. A premature baby with other serious underlying medical conditions contracted measles before birth from its unvaccinated mother. Ontario health officials say the virus was a contributing factor. Experts say vaccination before pregnancy is the best protection because the vaccine is not recommended during pregnancy. If someone is pregnant and unvaccinated and is exposed to measles, they can get an antibody therapy to reduce the risk. For those unsure about their vaccine status, routine prenatal testing doesn't usually screen for measles to see if patients are protected.
This is something we definitely have to reflect on as we see the growing numbers.
As Canada's largest outbreak in years continues. Allison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Canada's Competition Bureau is suing DoorDash, alleging that it charges customers more than what it promises in ads. The CBC's Nisha Patel looks at what the suit might mean for other companies.
Canadians can use DoorDash to order just about anything online and have it delivered, but some customers say it's tough to keep track of the fees.
They have that BC regular fee or whatever, it is 99 cents, and they just keep adding those, and the service is not that good.
There's always so many service charges recently, and it just gets to an astronomical point.
Now Canada's competition watchdog is suing the company, alleging that DoorDash adds mandatory fees at checkout so that consumers pay more than was advertised. The Competition Bureau says so-called drip pricing is deceptive because consumers are not presented with an attainable price up front.
Your door to more. DoorDash.
The Bureau alleges DoorDash used drip pricing for close to a decade, making nearly $1 billion from mandatory fees. Consumer advocates welcome the suit.
These sort of middlemen businesses, whether that's delivery or hotel and travel booking, airlines, I think there are a lot of targets that, should be basically dealing with consumers more straightforwardly.
In 2022, Canadian law recognized drip pricing as harmful, and the Competition Bureau has become more aggressive. Last year, Cineplex was fined $39 million for charging an extra fee during online ticket purchases.
If they are successful, other companies with similar practices, because often it's rarely just one company engaging in these practices, they'll see this and change their ways.
The company claims it was unfairly singled out and says DoorDash does not hide fees from consumers or mislead them in any way. We intend to vigorously defend ourselves against these claims.
The Competition Bureau says it's looking for DoorDash to change its practices, pay a financial penalty, and compensate affected customers. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index rallied Tuesday on strength of battery metals and energy stocks, while U.S. stock markets also rose. Here's a look at how the markets did today as we head to break.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourisme Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismegaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Okay, more sun tomorrow. Everybody say it. More sun
More
tomorrow.
sun. We're going to keep getting more sun all
yes.
the time. Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk about the weekend in just a second because I feel like we got to circle back to that.
Yeah.
First, have a look at our viewer picture of the day. And yeah, we're going to zoom in on an absolutely beautiful neck of the woods, of course. So looking out over St. Mary's Bay. Saulnieville.
Oh, nice.
Now, you notice how red that sun is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For
so
good reason, right?
That
Well,
has
not a
been,
bad reason.
Yeah, exactly. That has been the case. So many of our sunsets have looked like this with the wildfire smoke in the mix. And so, yes, all perspective.
Yeah, sure.
The rain's okay.
Rain
Yes,
is good.
exactly.
We'll just hope we can thread the needle a little better when it actually occurs as we move into the summer season. So tomorrow, the showers clear pretty quickly in the morning. A terrific afternoon, temperatures into the low 20s for most, cooler in the onshore winds. Thursday will be breezy, gusty, but it will be a beautiful day as well. We'll see a chance for some isolated showers into the afternoon. So there's the system tonight. That moves out. Quick moving system on its heels will move in for Thursday. And again, just an isolated chance for a shower with that frontal boundary coming through. Then back into the sunshine. And we are looking at, yes, for Friday, I think a fine day, maybe an isolated risk for shower system. Moving into the region on Saturday, now looks set to bring some wet weather for Saturday, but it does look like Sunday is going to be okay. So
Sunday looks good.
Take it where we can.
You
That's
bet.
right.
Thanks, Ryan. The world's highest single-arch railway bridge is now open for business in Indian-administered Kashmir.
The Chenab Bridge sits 350 meters above a river valley. To put that in perspective, that's 35 meters taller than the Eiffel Tower.
Wow.
The Showcase Infrastructure Project is just over 1,300 meters long, and it took more than 20 years to build.
The term single arch bridge typically refers to a single continuous arch spanning between two supports, worth the price of a ticket just for the view alone.
Spectacular.
Boy, I'd be driving slow.
So impressive. All right, that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.